Welcome back to another episode of the Strongman Winner Circle podcast, episode 28. My name is Nicholas Camby, and I'm with my co-host, Anthony Furman. And today we have multiple topics. Anthony's going to open up about a little tough love that he wants to give out to the community, but also we're going to talk about uncommon event strategy. So, Anthony, take it away.
We got a grab bag show today. Just grab in, we'll pick a topic, right? No, this is exciting. So, we scheduled this to talk about the Giants Lab and the unconventional training for unconventional events, and it's just something I want to talk about. Something it's not very recently. I would say this is something that I've seen and been part of an experience since I've been in the sport and just in life general. This isn't even sport specific. Tough love from me to all of you. Stop fucking whining and then doing nothing about it.
And complaining.
Whining and complaining. Listen, we all do it. I've probably bitch and moan with the best of them. We all bitch and moan. It's part of life. Shared misery, especially, coming up as a soldier, you all bitch and moan together because you're all going through it. But you know what you do is you find a solution. You find a reason to fix it. You find something. You find a way. You don't just bitch and moan for the sake of hearing your own sad story. And I think most people are tired of hearing everyone else's complaints nowadays. It seems like it's all, social media is a big part of it. Don't get me wrong. But you have to take action in your own life. There are a billion things in your life that you cannot control. Way more than you can control. So what you do is you focus on the things you can control. Sit down, write it out. What can you control about the situation? Now, what can you do to help that situation? That's it. It's that simple. There's always something you can do. It could be as simple as I'm walking away from the situation. Boom, it's fixed. There's a lot of ththings, and I've used a lot of different methods myself. And me and Camby have given each other tough love over the years. So that's what friends do. You need it sometimes. That's my basic message for today. Is just everybody come together, grab your chest, grab yourself, and say, what can I do? What have I done? What will I do? Not what will you do for me? Not this is happening because of this and that. Okay, way to go, Mr. Obvious. What are you doing to fix it? What are you doing to fix it? Are you doing anything? If not, move on.
So just to kind of build upon that point, whenever, of course, if you're complaining or whining to someone online or anything like that, you're taking time and energy that could be spent somewhere else, maybe spending time solving the problem on something that's going to be unproductive because usually it doesn't really get you anywhere. But also what you kind of manifest and say really matters. If you really feel that like this is out of your control and you can't control it, you can't do this, you can't do that, you're going to almost limit yourself and your potential. And that's not what winners do. Winners find solutions. Winners kind of see the roadblocks and see how they can get around it, or what's another task that they can do that's more meaningful, that is better use for their time.
I mean, you find me somebody that's won at anything and show me that they complained their way to the top, and I will give you my next paycheck. It's just not how it works. You don't complain your way to the top. You win. You win. You focus. You determine what you need to do, and then you do it. So take action, everyone.
Yeah, I love it.
Good day to take action.
So let's talk about uncommon event strategy. So we'll think about maybe a little bit in terms of training and a little bit more of kind of day of the competition.
Yeah.
But when we talk about kind of random events, let's start with Viking press, not random events, uncommon events. So Viking press, I think that's something that's coming up. We'll see it at OSG. We see it so often. But how would you tackle a Viking press? And do you think there's a difference when it comes to Viking press facing in, Viking press facing out?
Yeah, I think there's a big difference, especially neutral grip versus the regular traditional grip. It's all in your mobility and where your strengths lie. A lot of times good push jerkers, even push pressers struggle a little on a Viking because it heavily favors people with a lot of raw, strict power, the way that it's built, right? Or if you're from my friends in Norway, you say Viking press, not Viking. A little bit of W there.
How you say it?
Viking. That's how I've heard them say it. They say Viking instead of Viking.
Anthony's future neighbors.
My future brothers and sisters. I personally, I've never been great at the Viking press, but that's due to my mobility, 100%. My lats, I didn't take the time coming up in my career to work on my mobility. So by the time I got to the level strength, I mean, I was wound tight as I don't know what's wound tight. my hair bun, my man bun. There we go. Uh, so personally, that's what it is for me. I think lack of mobility can affect you. I think to train for it, I think depending on what it is. So for example, OSG, they have the neutral grip handles, right?
Mhm.
It's
And
facing out.
yeah, most likely going to be facing out again,
I
just
think,
because see the pretty faces and the expression of the
yeah,
athlete.
that's pretty smart. I think that one, work on your lat mobility is going to help you a lot with this, and two, I would do like a Swiss bar kind of strict press. Um, I'd work on that a lot, where maybe you're leaned back and then make sure you over exaggerate coming through, because on a Viking press, it's on a track, right? So like when you press lock out, I mean, it's up to you, your body, about where you're going. You could either be back here because you're not mobile, or you can lock the press out easier, right? You don't want to struggle that last quarter inch because of your lack of mobility. This is all my perspective, what I've seen though. So
Now, is that when, of course, when you did it yourself, when you're in that facing out motion, was that a little difficult locking out?
well, when I did it, I didn't really train for it. I didn't know I was going to do it until a few weeks out.
Just jumping in, is that
No, but
what?
then, yeah, I would have hammered my lat mobility a lot more prior to leading up to the show. Just that. That's all I would have changed. So I could have got probably about 3 or 4 more reps, because it wasn't a strength thing. What happened was I was struggling on that lockout so much because I just couldn't get all the way through.
Mhm. That's of course good points. Some things that I want to mention. I think a lot of times kind of like the ability for your shoulders to interiorly and exteriorly kind of rotate in terms of how forward. So usually, kind of like for instance, one thing I point in my press seminars is being able to kind of internally rotate, so our biceps are facing out, and that
Yep.
allows the bar to get more behind you and over the hips. So I think that again, having that mobility is going to help, especially if you're going to be facing out. Facing in is usually a little easier, but when it comes to kind of training and programming, I would think I almost kind of just picture Eddie Hall in your mind. Like, of course, Eddie Hall in 2017, how static he was, not only in the strict press and push press. So usually those individuals are going to have the best kind of carryover. So when you're training for it, I would maybe potentially think about doubling up on your strict press and push up press, or a
Yeah.
little more emphasis.
I think Eddie's a perfect example of, it don't matter how mobile you are if you're strong as an ox. End of the day, that's what it boils down to, right? If you can get maximal strength hitting in the Viking press, you'll be doing a lot better. Fun fact about Eddie, I was just watching a Europe's Strongest Man from like 17 or 16,
Ooh,
and when Thor was like getting near his top, right where they both were, that Eddie beat Thor in a yoke walk, like head up.
really? What was it? Was it
Yeah,
close?
yeah, it was like within a half second. But like Eddie won the event and everything against, like, people don't remember that boy can move what he wanted to.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You always had that. You always had the good event speed.
Yeah,
But
he was really good at stones. Like, he really wasn't bad at much except maybe a little bit of grip stuff. But other than that, that dude was freaking good.
yeah, of course, hope we'll see Eddie again later in the year being a team captain. So,
Can he beat Robert Oberst? Only time will tell.
all right, Anthony, let's talk about one of your favorite events, truck pull.
Oh yeah, I just made a post about how boring the truck pull is.
I know you mentioned. What's interesting? I think and I've seen in the past when they had like the world's strongest man, they had the dual truck pulls at the same time. I think that's a little more exciting. But yeah, I can see.
It's just one of the things. It never did it for me. Even before I sucked at it, it never did it for me. I just never enjoyed. I remember I would always fast forward the truck pull on like DVR, like back in the day when I had Worlds, because I didn't want to sit there for 10 minutes watching people pull a truck. It was boring.
No, but if someone has a truck pull coming
Hey,
in,
don't ask me, because I have not figured out how to train that event.
so all right, so I'll go for it. So I think we want to kind of replicate something that like kind of Kiyosaki, um, even Novikov this past one, having that nice forward leaning stance, and you're really driving on your toes and really have a good bend in your ankles and your knees and all your weights forward. We don't want to be standing up like Hafner Bjornsson was in his first few World's Strongest Man, where he's kind of like lunging.
Because you lose your weight advantage when you stand up.
Absolutely. But also I think there's some coordination when it comes to the actual rope. So I would actually, in my training, I should do like stationary pulls, practicing the simulation of the hand over hand. And usually I think some people grab let's see, for our Spotify listeners, this is gonna be a little tough, but for our YouTube listeners, you can I always like to grab the rope under.
Oh my God, Spotify, he's taking his pants off right now. Oh, Camby, what are you doing?
So I always say grab the rope from under, but practice that coordination. So doing kind of like light stationary drags like we did back in 2019.
Yeah, Camby. So the one thing I learned, guys, one thing I learned from Camby when he's trying to teach me how to finally truck pull, I focused so much on driving my feet, I wasn't using my arms as anything but a guide. But your upper body is there to use to pull with you, so you have to really work on using your lower and upper body together, not one or the other or fighting. They really have to be in concert together.
And I always thought that kind of like a dead stop, if you do sled pulls, was probably the good way to train it. Of course, once you join a truck, of course, there's going to be a lot of friction at the top or in the beginning, and then it slowly, as things move on, it'll get a little easier. And then, but again, you're going to have your good heart rate. But if you're going to try to simulate in a gym, usually you want to, of course, have the rope tied to something sturdy, and then have a buddy someone to collect the rope, but put a harness on a heavy sled. And I thought usually that was a pretty good setup.
I think it's a good thing to do as well. If you have like all you have is like a sled or something, if you can get a secondary rope and tie it around a tire to drag behind that sled, that's going to be even better to add that kind of friction, and make it a tougher pull and kind of get that heart rate up longer.
I like it. So on the other side of the truck pull, so if you're not pulling it, you could be also, or you can pull in a different manner, doing an arm over arm pull. What are your thoughts here, and what are kind of your suggestions when it comes to not necessarily arm over arm truck pulls? We also have had like arm over arm basket pulls where a bunch of kegs been loaded on, and we see that from time to time a little more, something that's not on wheels. But what are your thoughts when it comes to arm over arm?
Yeah, so it's a two-parter for me. So in training stimulus, I think it's very important to train two things. You need to train the full body extension, and that is using your legs to pull that first initial pull. And as soon as you start extending with the knees, that's when you start pulling the rope into your chest and laying all the way back, and then reaching up with an arm to pull yourself back up to get as much rope as you can. You want to. I would rather pull to 6 feet extension than 3 feet by just using my arms and leaning back half-assed. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Mariusz Pudzianowski, watch any of his boat pull, truck pull. I mean, he was up in there. It's a leg press essentially until his legs were locked out. Then he'd lean back and finish another 3 feet. But also in training, I found a lot of benefit from standing stationary with like a sled and doing arm over arm without the lower, and just build that upper body, the grip. When it helps your grip, and two, it helps the lactic acid threshold for that event. So if you can do that event with just your upper body, I'm doing air quotes, you'll be fine on comp day when you throw your lower body into it.
Sure. All good points. I got away from it in a contest. I did it well, and then doing an ASM 2020, I got away from it, but I put my feet up too high on the actual apparatus, where I should have my feet lower to be able to extend further almost. And then at the top, you're almost pretty much standing straight up with the rope pulled back, all the way back. So I think kind of foot placement is there. I remember at the time, of course, in that America's deal ended up beating me on that event and also winning the contest. I think that was the event I needed to beat him in order to kind of overtake him. But in that sense, I think he got some tips from JF Karan in terms of where the foot placements is. And I did that in one contest where I did really well, and I got away from that from ASM and even my training. So even if I changed it up day of, it might not really made a difference. But if I could have done it back, I would have trained with my feet lower. And when it comes to kind of when you plant against something. So I think in training, I was using kegs. In the thing we had like how would you describe where we plant the feet at ASM 2020? It was a little like a kind of a slanted platform that was made for.
Yeah, it was like made for it. Yeah, that's what it was. I remember that truck pull. I shouldn't have done. I shouldn't even competed that show.
But I would say, put your feet on lower. So kind of moving on. So something that I think I've only done once. But Anthony, what are your suggestions on power stairs?
Power stairs. Again, it's a sum of the whole, right? So you have to have strong posterior, you have to have a good grip, you have to have strong shoulders. So training wise, heavy RDLs, real good keg swing, or if you get the they make them now like the power pins that are shorter, you can add more weight and really get some good momentum and use them that way. And then also
so you like the power pin swings?
Power pin swings, complex, where like you make it heavy enough where it's like 2 swings in one load. Anything you could do to kind of fatigue yourself prior to because again, it's usually in the competition, you're not gonna be fresh. But power pin's good. If you can get an actual implement, that's always the best. Like the big circuit. I mean, obviously that's the best thing to do. And also, so snatch grip high pulls with a barbell, you can strap in with them. Those are very good for they're trapping upper back builders. So essentially, it's the first half of a muscle clean. Think of it like that, where you just bring it up to the nipple level. That's going to build some nasty power that you'll need for these events too.
Well,
And again, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but like when you're doing the event, remember the key is to get it to where you can shove it with your knees and your legs onto the step. You don't want to overlift it if you don't have to, because that's fatigue. So if you can get in a good rhythm where you know you lift it 4 inches, boom, you scoot it forward with your knees, you're on the step, jump up the next step. And you want to be a little bit further away from the step as opposed to close to it, because what happens a lot of times if you're too close and you go to load it, you're going to catch it on the lip of the step and it's going to be a waste of a rep.
interesting. What do you think about like something like Ukrainian deadlifts training for power pin swings?
That's yeah, that's another great thing. I never did them because I just didn't have the bandwidth to set up in the gym I was at, but I've seen a lot of people use them with great success. And to me, it makes perfect sense to be good at an event like this. Obviously, you'd want to modify a little bit, maybe bring your stance in a little bit to mimic closer to. But that'd be a great tool.
All right, excellent. Moving on. So when we're looking at front hold, so for instance, this coming Giants Live Open, they have a front hold. So of course, a lot of shoulders, a lot of up body strength. But what would you think in terms of training for an event like this?
I mean, to me, that's pretty simple. Just hold some shit in front of you.
Just try different variations.
Yeah, you can do single arm. You can do unilateral holds. You can do plate holds. You can do hold it with a hammer. So it's the weight distributions differently to prepare yourself for all different angles of it. Because that does matter. The denser the object, if it's a long hammer, it's a little different to hold than something where you're holding like, it depends on your hand placement. There's a bunch of different ways, but you're going to have to just mimic it as best you can. Again, during your training, you should be doing things like front raises and all types of stuff to build the strength anyways. But
so you would think that a lot of shoulder accessories, so front raises, lateral raises, would be pretty helpful too.
I think those are transfer over probably best, especially if you do isometric ones. So like an isometric shoulder front raise. It's the same thing as anything you would do, like a deadlift or anything, where you would go in the rack and you would front raise the bar and it gets stuck on, you set up the safeties and you get stuck on the safeties and you try and hold it there as much as you can.
So what do you think about the rest of the body? Do you think, like, for instance, like having a belt on, squeezing the glutes, like what should the lower body be focusing on?
I mean, with anything else, you want to protect your brace. That's important. If you have a good brace to start with, by the time the brace stops going, you still have another 30 seconds left in you, hopefully. Now, if you start with a bad brace, you're handicapping yourself in the event.
All right. All good suggestions. All right, moving on. So of course, for some fingers. What do you think about
fingers?
What do you think about flipping over those fingers?
I mean, honestly, I want to hear you, because you've been training for finger fingers recently with this. I want to hear what you did for it.
So I think for someone that doesn't have fingers, the good way to replicate it, I was using a landmine and put it on 25s to kind of replicate the circumference of the actual finger. And I was only practicing the pickup, and I was treating the pickup almost similar to how you would clean a circus dumbbell, but very much almost how you would. But I would finish in a power clean. So I actually would widen out my feet. I would have a bend in my knees and my hips, and I would catch in a power clean stance to give myself a little more room to get under it to really have a good efficient clean, so I could pop it up and then start it. So outside of just having the finger, I practice just the clean, which I think is half the battle. And I think the portion in terms of once you clean it and you have to push it over, I think it just, what we talked about, doing a lot of shoulder strength, so not missing out on that those shoulder accessories, but also driving the feet. So a lot of kind of quad strength, a lot of footwork. You're not taking long steps. You're taking short, choppy steps like an offensive lineman. You're driving. So something like prowler work or pushing a yoke on turf. I would think with like those short, stoppy steps would be something to kind of mimic pushing that finger over that's on a lever.
Well, I mean, one thing you want to practice too is you want to practice essentially keeping your triceps locked out for an extended period of time, because that's when you come under it. You don't want to come under it. Again, you can't see me in Spotify, but you don't want to come under it at a 90-degree angle, right? You want to be locked out as much as you can climbing up that finger finger. So you don't want your triceps to fatigue early.
And then even like this, for instance, this past clash, we saw the guys that did the best did the one hand over the other rather than some of the two hand setup.
Yeah.
So of course, if you can do the one hand, keep it out, get it off your shoulders. I think that's the best way. But there's going to be a lot of coordination when it comes to the hand and footwork to push that over after you cleaned it. So moving on, we got a few more. Hercules hold. How would this differ from a regular kind of like farmers, in your opinion?
So for me, I mean, a lot of it's angle and comfortability, right? When you're doing farmers, your arms are at a more natural position at your side, like as if not obviously not natural because you got 300 plus pounds per, but in that more position where you're at more normally. Where at Hercules hold, you're in a crucifix position essentially, which is not something we're normally in. So you really have to train. I mean, it's pulling on your pecs, it's pulling on your traps, it's pulling on everything. So you really have to work on locking your lats in. That's what I see people don't do enough. They think it's a shoulder and a grip exercise, and they don't lock their lats in. It's as simple as shrugging down, locking, and keeping that locked in. Because what you want to do is create one line from your handle to your lats. So when you're here, boom, you just pop it in, and then you go, look down. You want to get a wide base because you don't want to be pulled left or right. So you want to make sure you have a wide athletic base. And after that, it's grip work. Having good grip.
Did you try the one when you went out of Norway? You tried the FIFA one?
Yep. I messed around with it. Again, that thing was humbling. It's heavy. Like when I didn't have a good enough stance, like a wide enough stance. So when it let go, the one side pulled me, and it pulled enough out of my hand where it probably stole 15, 20 seconds out of me initially, just because I wasn't prepared for that pull. So that's something else you could do. If it does pull you, it can kind of open your hand a little bit that you don't want open, because that's just a countdown to failure, right? But yeah, the biggest thing that was, being able to use your entire body for the lift, not just your hands and shoulders. Bracing.
So on, like, for instance, farmers, we've talked about like kind of the grip in terms of having our mid hand. So like starting kind of where kind of a cocked wrist, and then when we stand up, the wrist straightens out and the farmers kind of gets nice and tight within our mid hand. Are you able to do that on the Hercules hold as well?
Not nearly as much, because what you have is the difference is the inertia of the actual pillars falling and you catching it. It's a lot more than the actual weight advertised. When you pick up 300 pounds, it's 300 pounds. When you have weight falling, it's more than whatever that weight is advertised. So it's harder. When it pulls, it kind of it'll jolt you a little bit, as opposed to when you curl your wrists on a farmer, it just kind of straightens out.
Okay. All right. So what would you suggest the listeners?
My suggestion is to find that perfect balance where you're locked in, deep seated in your palm. You got a real good feel for it. You're straight, lats are locked in, and then you're ready to go. The lats, to me, should be the last part. Your grip, your stance, take a breath, lock in, embrace, and then the signal or whatever.
What do you think? A cable machine, practicing on that, would that give any replica, or is that doesn't do it justice?
I mean, it doesn't really do it justice, but it's better than nothing.
Better than nothing. All right.
Yeah.
All good items.
And again, I am talking at a non-local level. Local shows are a little more manageable, and you can train a little easier on commercial gym stuff.
So when we see things, if we ever seen a regional, seen an elite pro show, it's going
to be a little tougher to train for. But if you're at a local level, or even regional level, I'd say you could get away with kind of training. It's not going to be as heavy as
overall train that grip. What do we think about tire flips? So of course there's always like the athletic stance, having your hands out, your feet narrow, or having like a sumo stance where your arms in between, and then your legs out. Of course, that's sometimes a little more bicep prone, but it's a little easier to kind of flip. Or you do the more athletic stance where you're pushing the weight on there. But I've also caught some slack in competitions because I tried to do the athletic stance, but we were doing it on grass. So I couldn't add nothing to dig into, and I slipped, and I was actually a partner's event, and me and Johnny did pretty well. Johnny actually carried us on that event. He ended up doing 5 out of the 8 flips. I only did 3 flips because I was going so slow. But my athletic stance that I trained for, go Johnny. Yeah, the athletic stance that I trained for didn't work well in the grass. So is it just really understanding like the surface and everything?
I treat tire flips much like the magical world treats he who must not be named. If you don't say its name and pretend it doesn't exist, you'll never see it again.
So
I fucking hate tire flips. I think they're a terrible thing in strongman. I think it's the risk to reward ratio is way beyond what it needs to be because we're so fucking strong now. It's we're using these tires that are designed to tear biceps, and I'm not a fan. And I think they should go away.
all right, that's good. But that's
all right. If you're gonna do them though,
but if there's in a contest, then you have to do them.
If the contest is on grass, don't do the contest. Because you're going to have to switch to the normal. Because normally you want your arms narrow inside your legs when you're doing it, and that chest on the tire, drive into it and up. Right.
Mm-hmm.
If it's on grass, you really just kind of sumo deadlift it. You get you kind of pick it up where, and then you got to roll it up into your chest with your biceps and do the wide stance, lean into it, chest on, hand, find a good grip, and when you drive into it, it should raise up off the ground enough where you can kind of use that momentum to bring it up and knee it as soon as it comes across your knee.
I like it. And then of course, everything that Anthony said. And then of course, short, again, I think I go back to kind of like good solid steps. You don't have to be necessarily short, choppy. I've seen kind of good, powerful steps, short, choppy steps even work better, but just good steps to really drive that over and push it through and finish through the lift.
Yep.
And then the last one that I have for these uncommon event strategy is let's say like a sandbag load or Atlas stone load to a max height. So when we get to a point where we're really kind of triple extending, what do you have any suggestions?
If you're going max height, luckily everybody on God's green earth is doing sandbag to shoulder now. So that's something you want to train. If you're going max height, you want to make it easier. And shoulder over bar compared to chest over bar is going to get you more height and less effort. Other than that, once you start getting, what is it? We'll say about 68 to 70 inches. Like that's when you have to start pressing the bag for most like 105 men. So you're gonna have to work on bag presses, sandbag, clean and press, work it all. Because the extension is going to fail you quite earlier in that rising bar than it would on like a load medley. So you really yes, you need to focus on that, but you also need to focus on shouldering and being able to press that bag.
Excellent. I've only had an Atlas stone to a max height, and on the last ones, in order to get it over, I think we all failed 74 inches, but we were trying to press that at the point where we had to press it off.
Well, that's why, like, if I did a max height sandbag type thing, I would probably make it where it's a loading medley with ascending heights.
Interesting. Ascending heights.
Ooh, for everyone at home. Are we done with the crazy events? Because I have one for you, how you would train for.
Absolutely. Yeah. Bring it on.
So let's say this is all fictitious. Let's say there you are, the Clash Finals 2023. You're brought out to the floor with the other 10 finalists, and there are 10 barbells with about 900 pounds per barbell. The bars are loaded to about 500 pounds, and you guys are told, everyone lines up. You have 5 minutes to establish a 1 rep max. Go. What do you do? How do you train for that?
I think in that situation, the best deadlifter is gonna win. But you would have to.
I will say that before this event, you would be able to warm up to whatever you need to be just for safety reasons.
So you have 5 minutes.
Yeah, one timer for everybody. Like, and it's just each lane has a judge and good lift. It's annotated and the scores on the screen flip every time someone hits a bigger one.
I think you would just have to think of doing kind of consistent jumps that you have, and then what's going to enable you to get to that heavy deadlift.
For me, I'm throwing on whatever my max is and hitting it off the bat
right away.
Yeah, because I feel again, if I warm up correctly, like for example, like if I know I want to pull 8, I'm probably going to warm up to about low mid 7s, and then 5 minutes out there, I'm back on the floor. Shit, I could pull I could hit another mid 7, 8 in that time to open.
Then what you for the rest of the time, you just watch the other guys and see what they're doing. And
then what do you need to do after that? Do you need to push it? And then also, you have to load your own plates, so that takes your time as well.
That'd be interesting because, like, for instance, like if you pull, let's just say like 750 right at the bat, and people are like, "Oh, I got to do that," so they throw 750 and they start failing that
It
right
might
away.
fuck everyone else up too. It's
I
a,
don't,
it's a,
I don't think you probably, I don't know. Will you have, like, for instance, hypothetically, would you have rules that, like, once you go up a weight and fail, you can't go back down and
no, man, it'll be, you have 5 minutes. The rules are you have 5 minutes to
um,
hit that biggest lift you can.
mm,
I think this would be fun because one, it doesn't only test your strength, it tests your mental capacity to deal with stress and also prep for something that's different.
mm. Yeah. So what's the closest relation to? Is that some, like, kind of CrossFit
It's similar.
style?
I think I've seen them do something similar, but it might have been like their CrossFit Total where they had like the 3 stations and they had like a certain amount of time per station to establish it, which is, I think their CrossFit Total is a squat, strict press, and deadlift.
Mm,
Um, I've seen it. I think at the team competition we did back when I earned my pro card at Lynn, the Mid Atlantic, we did a team deadlift where it was like a set amount of time, and both of us had that time to hit a max. Maybe it was like 3 minutes per person. Either way, it was pretty cool. So I've always thought, how could we do that at the elite level? You know,
so keep your eyes on B.
keep your eyes open. I'm not dropping hints here.
But in the end, you would think the best deadlift would win, right? So just training for someone
Yeah,
like that,
you would think that, but you can ask Sean Shoemaker. That's not always the case.
Oh, that's true.
Sometimes it's about who comes and perform. I mean, because again, everyone knows Sean's one of the best in the world, but I beat him twice on the deadlift ladder because I came prepared differently. He was way better deadlift than me, always has been.
It's true.
Yeah.
Good one. Any more before we move on?
No, that was my one. I wanted to kind of throw you on the spot and see what you thought.
Yeah, that was a pretty interesting one. I think that would be, yeah, that would be some strategy. I imagine, like, for instance, after that's been out 2 or 3 times, there'll probably be like a set strategy, but for the first time, that's going to be, you guys see things all over the place.
Yeah.
So the other thing we would like to cover in this, of course, within this odd bag of topics, is talk about the deadlift, the World Open over in England on August 6th. So they're going for the 505 deadlift. So we have the deadlifters this weekend and also the competition. So let's say first the people who are competing, we have Andy Black, Shane Flowers, Payneman from Iran, Pau Dwyer, Ronald Hyla, Graham Hicks, Mitchell Hooper, Ivan Markov, Gavin Bilton, Evan the T-Rex Singleton,
Dinosaur.
I keep saying Oleksii Novikov,
I just call him Lexi.
Vanderlyn. I think I forgot. Yeah. I think I forgot.
Did you say Mitchell Hooper? Did you say Hooper?
Yeah, I said Hooper, and then so Vanderlyn. I think I forgot.
He's the South African guy, right?
Yes. Yeah. And then Pavlo Nicheski of the Ukraine.
Is that the guy that was fighting everybody?
Or just his fellow countrymen. So
there's one thing I like to do when I go to competitions is fight people in the back.
So it's interesting. So it was a good group of guys. I think last year Markov and Pavlo were the only ones that went to attempt a 505. And they both missed.
Nobody's hitting it.
So Markov is the one that ended up winning. So let's just think about if so. So first prediction, Anthony says you don't think anybody's
we might get a couple 475s, but ain't a soul hitting 505 right now. Sorry.
Payneman hit 485 with that soft lockout, right? Last year in Russia, I think that was.
Yeah. He did the the soft lockout. You can call it.
So
he got it off the ground.
He got off the ground. So there's that. So if you had to put a guess in terms of who's going to win the lift, so would it be like a 4-horse race? Payneman needs to show up because it's getting the visa.
I think visa I think is a problem with him. So it's Pavlo, Ivan,
Hooper. Would you put Hooper in that mix?
I don't know if Hooper has 475 in him right now, and here's why.
I think he said he hit it. Love it. I watched one of his YouTube videos. He said he hit it 11 months ago. And he's stronger now.
But he also didn't compete back to back. I mean, he's just learning strongman, and he's going to learn real quick that saying yes to all these opportunities, while awesome, comes with some, some problems on the back end. I just think it's a overblown record that's designed to make money and nothing else.
All right. So, but if you so you think it's gonna be a 4-horse race between those 4 guys, including Nicheski, who in terms
Oh
of
yeah. Well, assuming he can make it to the stage without hitting somebody.
okay, all right. So then the rest of the rest of the events, farmers into a carry medley, 150 kilo log for reps, a hammer hold, castle stones. So in terms of like a competition itself, what do you think? Do you think it's gonna be a very similar finish than we saw recently when we had
Rauno on the deadlift. Rauno 475. I think Rauno, he's looking very good.
all right.
I don't think he's got 505, but he's looking really good.
So Rano. But in terms of the competition itself, so you think it's going to be similar to again what we saw recently when we saw Novikov winning, and we had Hooper in second and Singleton in third.
How many? Can you do a quick count of how many people we have total, including the deadlifters, or that are doing?
Ooh, I don't know because I don't know who's.
Was it like 12? Is it like 12 though? Well, essentially.
1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 12, and
I bet you 8 people move on to the farmers.
So you think 4?
We're gonna get 4 people to drop out after the deadlift.
Okay, all right. But what do you think in terms of that podium? Who do you take that win in that contest?
Give me Alexi, Evan, and Mitchell in any order.
In any order. Okay. Pretty fair. You don't think someone like Paul Dwyer might sneak in there?
Not with those 3 there. No.
No, that all right.
I think that the deadlift is going to hurt Paul a little bit.
That's fair. And he was a late addition.
Yeah, and the stones. I mean, Evan and Alexi right now we're on different level on stones than everyone else, besides the Stoltmans, essentially.
I would think that Graham Hicks could pull a good. I think his deadlift has been the best it's ever been.
Graham's very strong. It's just he's been hurt. It's just tough to tell because of the injuries and
so. But if he shows up what he can do, he could have a good deadlift. He could have a great log. He probably look like he has strong shoulders, so he could probably have a big hammer hold. And then if he could just limit the stones and the farmers, he might be.
The thing is, I think I'm gonna call a random win for whatever reason. I think Mitch is gonna win the hammer hold.
Mitch is gonna win the hammer hold. All right.
Yeah, I don't know why. It just kind of popped into me because I mean, yeah, I think Alexi. I think Evan's gonna get Alexi in the farmer sandbag just a little bit. I think Alexi's gonna win the log. And Evan's gonna have a hard time with the log and hammer hold with the shoulder nerve injury he has. So it's got. I mean, but I still think he's gonna do so well in the farmers and stones and deadlift that it's gonna. You know,
he says he's looking. He seemed pretty more confident. Evan on the log.
Yeah, I mean the dumbbell.
Yeah.
Anybody with nerve damage in one shoulder knows that. Like, unfortunately, it was his pressing shoulder dumbbell, so like it affected it big time. With a log, you can kind of compensate a little more, and it doesn't affect you quite as bad. People point to his world's performance, but that's was a day after anaphylactic shock, and there's so many factors that go into that. And I just hope he can put it all together and just kind of continue his progress.
Yeah, I was watching some of the Big Low's worked out with him, and so it sounds like he's been doing everything in his power to rehab. And
he has, man. He gets a bad rap because he's Evan. He's loud, but he does care and he does do a lot of stuff behind the scenes. It's just a gimmick's a gimmick.
Did you like Loz's name for him, the world's strongest loudmouth?
It's Laws, by the way.
Laws.
Lowe's, you. I loathe you, Lowe's.
Well, it's just like the English people call me Cumby.
Oh yeah, Cumby.
Cumby.
Oh my
it's
god.
Canby. I'm just kidding.
It's Canby with a hard A. I'm from Boston. No, I did see the video. He is the world's strongest loudmouth. Well, Eddie's pretty strong still.
Oh yeah, forgot. So he's current.
Current, active world's strongest loudmouth. No, but again, it's gonna be a show where injuries and Shaw Classic have taken their toll on the roster. So it's a lot of unknown, but I do think those 3 clearly separate themselves from the pack.
All right. Well, if you guys agree or disagree, make sure you write in the comments and tell us what you think. If you haven't already, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share with your friends, notification bell, so you know. We're going to come out with right now. We've been averaging an episode a week, so we've been pretty hot. So
we're trying for you all. We want to give you the good content, the stuff you need to know.
And if you haven't already, of course, make sure you listen to our Martines podcast, because I think that's one of our most popular ones, as well as nutrition. Nutrition had a great hit. So make
Yeah,
sure
those two were some of my favorite ones. We're really starting to hit our stride a little bit here. We're getting it.
we're getting it.
We're getting it.
So tune in. But until next time, guys, stay strong.